And welcome viewers to our space weather video about magnetic features, magnetic fields, sunspots, and more. We're looking at 4 hours of data here in the Geospace Magnetosphere Movies pressure section. You're looking at Earth's magnetic moment from space here out to about 12 Earth diameters. We are seeing geomagnetic unrest at the moment, and so this may not look as calm as it normally does. There's some incoming plasma as Earth's magnetic field environment attempts to reach static equilibrium. Next, looking at the Sun's heliospheric current sheet. It's the top view ecliptic plane field plot showing us the polarity of solar plasma. Earth is in a South Pole current sheet, and we can expect to remain in a South Pole current sheet for the foreseeable future. Just keep in mind the magnetic environment can change suddenly with basically no warning. So here is the magnetic field measurements by the GOES 16 and 17. These are geosynchronous satellites located at a near equatorial orbit. And you can see all those sawtooth-looking spiky readings there in the magnetometers. That's a result of incoming solar plasma. Let's take a look at some more visuals here. Here's a line of sight ecliptic plane field plot. And you can see there is no end in sight to that South Pole current sheet until the magnetic environment changes, and I assure you it will. Next, the line of sight coronal hole plot, and you can see the Sun's B field is shown here in blue. Those blue lines are the Sun's B field. And a huge transequatorial, but not super well-defined South Pole-oriented coronal holes rotating in here. And let's show a visual of that in 193 angstroms from the SBO. So all South Pole-oriented coronal holes, any coronal holes that you see in this imagery, keep in mind, folks, the corona is very bumpy. And as these rotate in closer to the earthly zone, you may see these become more well-defined. So there may be some coronal holes over here that we can't see quite right yet because there's a lot of plasma piling up in between us and those coronal holes. Let's move on to sunspots. Likelihood of major flares very high. Look at that. Flare probability making it up to 70+% there, getting up to 73 it looks like. So 4 major sunspot groups here, 2936, 2939, 2940, and 2941 are the major groups. And especially 2936 and 2941 certainly capable of producing major flares with their complex magnetic field structures. You can see some flaring happening here from 2936 as it approaches the limb. We'll show you a close-up of that. So here's a great full disk image. This is a composite 1600 and 1700 angstroms from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Here's a close-up of sunspot 2940. It's in the, let's get that playing again. It's in the northeastern portion of the closest star. It is still beta class. It is still capable of producing some serious flares. We'll see what happens. And here's sunspot 2941. This is going to be the new sunspot to watch, folks. This one is large, and it's about to be in charge of the earthly facing portion of the solar disk. We didn't forget to show this one down here. It's 2939. It's actually lost a little complexity here. The likelihood of a flare coming from this one, from this sunspot, is now a little bit lower, excuse me. And possibly the most interesting sunspot of the solar cycle 25 so far. It's sunspot 2936. And we've got some great bonus features in our next segment. Make sure you check that out. Coming up in a moment. So here's the X-ray flux over the past 3 days. No major flares, only C-class intensifications happening. Sunspots are largely underperforming. No major spikes in the proton flux. No major flares to send particles or to be associated with the sending of particles in our direction. We've seen a subsiding of the solar wind speed and density here. But this strong negative BZ component that you see right here, this red line, that is largely responsible for the geomagnetic unrest conditions. Current solar wind is about 9.5 protons per cubic centimeter for the density. Speed still elevated here at about 511 kilometers per second. And the max that we reached was just under 580 kilometers per second there for the most recent high-speed stream. Continuing on. And you can see quite a bit of geomagnetic unrest, even a brief 6-hour period of geomagnetic storm here yesterday on the 3rd. Again, we can expect, if you haven't watched our previous video, we did put up another video before this one. We are expecting continued geomagnetic unrest and storm conditions over the next 3 days. Next, your auroral forecast. And we'll let that play through one time for you there. Since it's a period of geomagnetic unrest, we might as well show you the most likely locations for the aurora borealis and australis. Will the southern tip of New Zealand see some aurorae? It's getting close. It looks like it's possible. Only just recently there. Anyway, that's your auroral forecast. Next, just to orient you in the solar system, here's where things are located currently. Let's move this forward 1 week. We'll have a gibbous waxing by the 11th of February. Next, a star chart. This is what's going on above my head here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. The blue line is the galactic plane. The yellow line is the ecliptic, the path the sun will take across the sky. If you're up before dawn, you might see Mars and Mercury and Venus and Saturn practically overlapping the sun there. Saturn and the sun right in line at the moment. Next, the coronal mass ejection view. We're going to show you the LASCO C3, which is located here at Lagrange 1, and the stereo A coronagraph located here at Lagrange 5, which is on your left. Huge prominence here in the northwestern limb of the sun. We can expect some of that ejecta to eject at any time. Some of it may splash back down. We'll keep you posted on that as well. Thanks for tuning in to our magnetic fields and features section of the daily space weather videos. It's 2 of 3. One more coming out. It's our bonus features segment. In the meantime, I'll be signing off from the Smash News Network least busted name in news.